Hello, Calgary. My name is Karin Wells, and I'm here today to talk to you about my book. There it is. It's called The Abortion Caravan: When Women Shut Down Government in the Battle for the Right to Choose. And first, let me say a big thank you to Shelf Life Books in Calgary for partnering in this virtual book launch. Something new, something that we're all learning to do. Necessity is the mother of invention, much as I would really like to be there in Calgary, a place I like a great deal. So the Abortion Caravan started out with a group of 17 women, young women in their 20s from Vancouver, politically active women, left, more than leaning, left wing, if you like. They had gathered together and wanted to get abortion out of the criminal code. Abortion was a criminal offense in the late 60s. There had been mild reforms, but nothing that really meant much. And what they wanted was to basically march on Ottawa and demand, not ask, that it be taken out of the criminal code. Doctors could and were prosecuted and jailed for performing abortions. And what that meant was that women were forced to go to backstreet abortionists. Conditions were bad, not sanitary. Infections were common, hemorrhages were common. Nobody stuck around to make sure you were okay afterwards. And women died. They had no choice but to go to these backstreet abortionists. The estimates were that between 1,000 and 2,000 Canadian women died every year because of this. So the goal was to create a situation where a medically clean abortion could be obtained in Canada. They set off from Vancouver on April the 27th, 1970. It was a Monday then, it's a Monday this year. They drove to Kamloops, and then they drove on to Calgary. And at every city they stopped at along the way, they staged guerrilla theater, they had meetings and rallies, they entered the town in a great blaze of sound. They made themselves noticed. That was the name of the game, to get themselves in the newspaper, to make people aware of what they were doing and what their message was. Calgary was important, extremely important, because this was the first time they'd taken their message out of British Columbia. They had been staging various actions in BC for the preceding 6 months, getting ready for the caravan, but no one outside the province knew what they were doing. They were very nervous after they crossed the Rogers Pass, came down, went through Banff, went through Canmore, and came into Calgary. They were very nervous, much trepidation. Would there be anybody who came to this meeting? Would people agree with them? Would people welcome them? How would they be received? Was this a message that had legs across the country? So a Calgary women's group met them and escorted them into town. The meeting was at the Unitarian Church. Someone had brought along a psychiatrist to talk about the effect of abortion on women and the effect of the state of the law. And it was considered a pretty successful meeting. They were thrilled. It was a small triumph, but it was what they needed at that point. I want to read you something from the book about their time in Calgary. So here we go. Not every family agreed with the caravan's message or the noisy, flagrant way they were putting that message forward. Some disagreed on religious grounds. To them, abortion was murder under any circumstances. Others agreed with the 1969 federal government reforms that made abortion a medical decision, permissible in limited circumstances, only at the discretion of the doctor. The caravan women were expecting both those arguments. In Calgary, however, they discovered a point of view they had not foreseen, that of women who had no objection to abortion. They just didn't want to hear about it publicly. Kathy Walker had relatives in Calgary. Kathy Walker was the woman driving the Volkswagen van. She had an aunt and uncle and some cousins. She drove the Volkswagen van around to their house and paid her aunt a visit. I probably stayed with her, said Walker, and she told me she wasn't supporting the caravan, but I was welcome to stay. And then she told me, and she had 2 kids, my cousins. Then she told me that she had had 2 abortions. And I remember being absolutely staggered. First, that she'd tell me it all, and then that she was against wanting it for everybody. I was absolutely gobsmacked. Kathy Walker's aunt had a sympathetic and discreet Calgary doctor who helped her out. It wasn't really that she was opposed to it for everybody. Rather, she was opposed to those public meetings and all that talk. She was a plain-spoken woman and had no difficulty telling her niece that she'd had not 1 but 2 abortions. And she said just as plainly that this is not what we talk about in public in front of strangers. But what Kathy Walker learned too was that her aunt wanted and needed to talk about what she had done. She wanted to tell her story. That need to tell came up time and time again along the journey. So it's these kinds of stories, added Kathy Walker, that would have never come out otherwise. People all across the country talked about these intimate, personal experiences that they may not have told anyone else. With my aunt, I'm not even sure that my uncle knew. The stories became increasingly important as the caravan moved across the country. Women stood up, told their stories not just to 1 or 2 other women, but to a room full of hundreds of strangers. The public storytelling became its own intimate and personal kind of activism. Kathy Walker's aunt gave the caravan women new insight. Yes, abortion was illegal, they knew that. What they had not recognized was that for many women, there was too much shame and stigma to talk about, let alone to lobby for any sort of change. A cover-the-piano-legs Victorian attitude persisted. The young women of the caravan became increasingly aware that they had not discovered abortion. Their aunts, their mothers, their grandmothers had had abortions. Calgary gave them a great deal more to think about than they expected. So that's what Calgary meant to the Abortion Caravan. I should also say 2 other things. One, this turned out to be a timely moment to write this book. As we all know, there has been a rise of more conservative forces in the United States in particular, threats to roll back the changes to abortion law to make it illegal once again. And during this period of COVID, we have seen governments use their emergency powers. In the state of Texas, there was just a decree that would has closed all abortion clinics on the grounds that this is not an essential service in the state. So no more abortions in Texas. Similar things are happening in Oklahoma, Alabama, and other states. And in Poland, looking further afield, which has never been a liberal country in terms of abortions, one of the criteria where it was permissible has now been rescinded again by a government using the powers it has under emergency measures. Not so bad in Canada. It has been declared, abortion has been declared a necessary service in these times, an essential service, and will continue. There have been difficulties, hopefully they're being remedied, getting the abortion pill, which is increasingly used because it's manufactured in Europe and it's getting difficult to import. But at the moment we're all right. But it's always a good thing to guard your rights, to be aware of them. So, and the other thing with this book is, to me, all along, it raised the question, these women exercised civil disobedience. They colored outside the lines. They did stuff you're not supposed to do. And it worked. They took to the streets. And it raises the question, when is it the right thing to do? To not play by the rules. Thank you. Thank you, Calgary. Thank you very much, Shelf Life Books. And there's the book, The Abortion Caravan. Thank you. Bye-bye.